Assalamualaikum and very good evening to all. My name is Siti Aisha binti Abdullah and my colleague Alisa Auni, Nur Nara.
Or Iman Inara.
Thank you, Andy and Sharon, and we will presenting about the cognitive theory. Okay, so I will pass to my friend Nara.
Okay, so the contents that we will talk about today is history of cognitive theory, assumptions of cognitive psychology, techniques or skills used in the theory, application of theory to resolve clients' problems, criticism, and conclusion.
Okay, history of cognitive theory. I will be presenting this subtopic. Cognitive theory or cognitive psychology is a broad field concerning memory, perception, attention, pattern recognition, consciousness, and human artificial intelligence. As you can see, many observations about the source of knowledge. Many humans think that solving problems and perceive the world is a normal thing, okay, and is widely valued in the position of thoughts and theories of many philosophers, scientists, and others, much as I can tell. Okay, so this belief started to be tested by trial and error since the 19th century throughout the 20th century and became famous in the history of science as cognitive psychology. And one of the leading cognitive therapists is that I chose Sir Aaron Beck. Sir Aaron Beck was discovered in 1967. He designed the depression plan, which he believes that a person's reaction to a specific upsetting thoughts may contribute to abnormality. As humans confront the many situations in life, both comforting and upsetting thought that comes into our minds, you see. So Sir Aaron Beck calls it the unbidden cognition automatic thoughts. So these thoughts is like a stream of automatic thoughts. They come very negative. So it will make that person feel like they are being pressured, and become depressed. So quite often these negative thoughts will persist, even in the face of situation. So what that means is that situation plays a big role in your emotions. So it's how you perceive the situation. So Sir Beck identified three mechanisms that he thought were responsible for depression. That's what he thought. Okay, so number one, the cognitive triad. The cognitive triad, it is divided into three forms of negativity. Okay, helpless and critical. Two, negative self-schemas. I believe that depression-prone to individuals and develop a negative self-schema. Self-schema is a mental framework designed by Jean Piaget. Okay, and mostly it's essentially it's about negative and being pessimistic. And three, errors in logic identifies a number of illogical thinking processes, like distortions of how the thought that you process, how you process the thoughts. So this cognitive theory assumes that the way individuals interpret their experiences has significantly impact on their emotions and actions, overall psychologically functioning. Okay, so I will pass to my friend. The next slide, please. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sharon, and moving on with the assumptions of cognitive psychology. Cognitive theory assumes that thoughts are the primary determinants of emotions and behavior. This mental process is commonly described as information processing. Theorized compare the human mind's operation to that of a computer. The cognitive approach assumes that the mind processes information in the same way that a computer does. This processing takes the form of thoughts and employs cognitive models. Two assumptions underpin cognitive psychology. First, the scientific method can, in theory, fully reveal human cognition, that is, individual components of mental processes can be identified and understood. Second, rules or algorithms can be used to describe internal mental processes. Because of its high success rates in psychological research, cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, is one of the most widely used psychotherapies. That's all from me. I'm passing on to my next partner.
So hi, so I'm going to explain about the techniques or skills used in the theory. So there are three techniques that we use in the theory, which is cognitive restructuring, exposure therapy, and successive approximation. Next slide. Okay, so cognitive restructuring, which is also known as cognitive reappraisal, is a cognitive behavior therapy technique that aims to teach people how to recognize dysfunctional thought patterns and develop more rational, grounded ways of understanding difficult situations. Next. Okay, the other technique that is used in the theory is successive approximation, which is this cognitive behavior therapy technique is useful for people who are having difficulty completing a task. Either they are unfamiliar with it or because it feels overwhelming for some reason. This technique works by assisting people in mastering a less difficult task that is similar to the more difficult task. I'm going to pass it to the next presenter.
Good evening. I will be talking about the application of theory to resolve clients' problems. So firstly, Dr. Ehrenberg, cognitive theory of depression suggests that people who are susceptible of depression develops enormous and unhelpful core beliefs about themselves, others, and the world. So to begin with, cognitive theory can help individuals to be aware of negative and biased thinking, which can benefit them in combating unhelpful thoughts, which often can lead to depression. For instance, let's take a case study. A student with depressive symptoms worries about his performance at school and about losing friends after getting a low grade in an exam, when generally he gets a good grade on other subjects, and proceeds to call himself a fool. This problematic thinking is recognized as all or nothing or black and white thinking, which involves thinking that the event is entirely complete good or entirely negative, with no gray regions in between. We can help the student realize this thinking error he made by asking questions such as, do you leave room for errors, or do you demand the situation to be perfect all the time, or does your thought is fair to you or is biased against yourselves, and how would you likely to feel if you keep continuing this way? After helping the student recognize his thinking error, which can lead to vicious cycle, he can retain his thinking to be more helpful in dealing with emotional issues. Like, for example, by coming up with a plan for change in thoughts in order to feel better and to act more constructively, and assessing how thinking in a more balanced or flexible way will benefit him. Another point worth notice is cognitive behavioral therapy can help us realize when we are depressed. We tend to avoid essential situations or activities which are very counterproductive and often worsens our depression. Let's take a case study. For instance, Ken, a 13-year-old boy, used to be so much cheerful and outgoing, but since his father left home after his parents' divorce, he became more depressed and used video games to distract himself. His grades plumped and he no longer participates in his favorite sports, which is basketball or social activities with his friends. In Ken's case, we can see that Ken is withdrawing himself from his hobbies and family and friends. He possibly avoids doing something that provokes his anxiety, such as doing his homework. As a result from that, his grades become worse. Like, we may or not realize that when we depress, we have the tendency to focus on nearly anything other than our internal thoughts, which itself is very unhelpful. In order to overcome our depression, we must acknowledge them in order to break this cycle of unhelpful thinking behavior. From this assessment, Ken cannot try to reduce his blocking out behaviors and replace them with more rewarding and productive activities. Furthermore, he might realize now that he should not avoiding his friends to get support and get back to basketball to improve his mood. Next, for the conclusion, I will pass it to the final speaker.
Hi, so I'll be doing the conclusion. Cognition refers to thinking and memory process, and cognitive development refers to long-term changes in this process. One of the most widely known perspectives about cognitive development is the cognitive stage theory by Sir Aaron Beck. Sir Aaron Beck is largely viewed as the father of cognitive therapy. Sir Aaron Beck created cognitive therapy on the idea that a person experiences produce cognitions or idea. These cognitions interact with schemas, which are foundational ideas formed in childhood that shape our worldwide and influences our emotional states and behavior. Back when he felt that negative attitudes and incorrect thinking contributes to the persistence of illness, almost everyone has had times when they felt gloomy or had ideas that made them feel horrible about their lives. When we are depressed, our thoughts might become excessively negative, affecting our perception of reality. When we are sad, one method to address our negative ideas is adopt cognitive therapy, a type of psychotherapy established by psychiatrist Aaron Beck that focuses on changing incorrect thinking process. Activity may help patients where ideas and beliefs are crucial. It highlights the need of recognizing and changing one's perspective on a problem. People's thought pattern, according to CBT, are like people with eyesight problems wearing a pair of glasses that cause us to perceive the world in a certain manner. That's it from me. Thank you.